All right, y'all, it is 9 o'clock, so we are going to get started. Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank y'all so much for coming. I know it's a big commitment to take time out of your busy schedules. Again, to be in this room, you had to have had $2.5 million in production or higher from the fourth quarter of 2024 through the third quarter of 2025. Our panelists have anywhere between $5 million and $16 million worth of production. They represent about $124 million worth of production in our board, which is about 8%. So thank y'all for coming. I really appreciate it. Our keynote speaker today is going to be Barrow Peacock. You all, this event is really to inspire you for collaboration, to build community, just a goal of opening up an event for our top producers, because I don't think we really have anything like that. And so I just felt inspired to do that. And so I'm excited about that. And take it away.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let me get here. Let's see. Oh, also in your booklets, if you have questions throughout the panel, just text them to this QR code, but that QR code is also in your booklet. So if you have a question, go to the QR code and submit it that way. All right, so Barrow Peacock, he is the Chief Deputy Commissioner at the Louisiana Department of Insurance.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And for your trivia question, I have my real estate license too, so I know you're worried that I might skew it, but it has been inactive since I've gotten it, so you don't have to worry. I know your answer is still accurate. So, but I did get my real estate license after finishing college. It's one of the education of property in Louisiana. When you get your real estate license, is very valuable. So I've kept mine inactive for the years and stuff, but I appreciate what you do and your knowledge that you give to your customers and your clients. It's very important. So Barrow Peacock, I'm with the Louisiana Department of Insurance. I'm from Shreveport, so I drove over this morning. I was in the state senate for 12 years, got termed out, and for 2 hours I was out of a job, and Tim Temple, who's the Commissioner of Insurance, hired me to come work with them. And my focus has basically been on how can we improve the insurance market in Louisiana? How do we address the cost drivers in Louisiana? So I know this is small, and I believe you have this PowerPoint presentation, but what we did between the 2024 and the 2025 legislative session, the legislature had 14 committee hearings because the governor had vetoed some bills. We focused on the cost drivers of insurance. Why are we paying the highest auto insurance rate in the country? Why are we paying high personal homeowners insurance rates in the country? So today I'm going to focus on just the property side of it. Would be glad to answer questions about auto and commercial auto too, but this focus is going to be on property because that is what y'all are doing as your profession. So I know this is small, but what we did here is we focused on what are the cost drivers in Louisiana to make us an outlier compared to other states. And we focused on the top one, and I believe this is a pointer. Let's see, the pointer is right there. Okay, so this is a comparison of Louisiana. The second one is Florida. The third is other Gulf Coast states, and then the national average. So we looked at why are we paying, what's driving the cost of insurance in our state. And the claims frequency in cats, hurricanes and stuff, we are 6 times higher than the national average. Now, when we look at these numbers, we look at a 10-year number. We don't pick a 1-year number or a 2-year number, because if you look at this year, it's going to be a very good year for the Louisiana and last year, because we had only 1 minor hurricane last year, and knock on wood, no hurricanes this year, which has been great for the Gulf Coast and for Louisiana, for our homeowners. So, and that's very good for the reinsurance market too. But we were 6 times higher than the national average on cat claims. When we look at other areas, we come in line, but then when you look at down the bottom, we're 12 times higher than the national average in litigation. So claims are higher in litigation. Now you say, well, why are the claims higher? And this shows it a little bit better. You can see where we are on the cats compared to litigation. But the big difference that hit is in 20 and 2021, we had 4 major storms hit the state of Louisiana. We had Delta, Ida, Laura, and Zeta all hit. In that time period, premiums were $2 billion collected. Payout was $24.5 billion, which was a huge number. Insurance companies were struggling. We had a number of insurance companies that went insolvent, which causes more litigation. People start claiming when they aren't getting the things. So it was a catastrophe. And when you put that in perspective, we all hear about the wildfires in California and how this blows away what's happening in California, but we don't get the national attention that they do in California. So we've been trying to work on that. So first, we're going to look at what we did in 2024. We focus on property insurance in 2024, and then we'll look at this past legislative session in 2025. So in 2024, we first did a claims process. And in Louisiana, we actually had two different areas of the law which dealt with claims process, which made a lot of ambiguities and opened up us to litigation in Louisiana. So we have made it simpler and easier, a timeline of when the process starts, trying to make it clear to both parties, to the insurance companies and to the policyholders when it starts. And we want to basically cut down on litigation. We want to simplify the process. We want to have a cure period, as you'll see there, to give both parties more time to resolve the disputes. And this became effective last year, August 1st, 2024. Now, that's great, but we won't know whether that legislation actually works until we have a storm and we see what really happens. Are we missing something in our litigation? Unintended consequences of legislation that passed, but we think this will help our state going forward when there are especially major storms coming into Louisiana. Act 10 by Senator Cloud basically changed this from a pre-approval, which if a company had a rate change, they had to get the Department of Insurance to approve it. We are now in file and use, which basically puts a company can file their rates with the Department of Insurance and they can start to use them. But the department has 30 days to come in and say, no, it's not right. So it puts more of a burden on that insurance company. If they're going to use it, they better get it right or they might have to undo anything they're doing. And this went into effect last year. This is more speed to the market. This makes Louisiana more attractive to attracting insurance companies to do business in the state of Louisiana. The next bill by Representative Gabe Furman, who's the chairman of the House Insurance, was to remove the 3-year rule for new policies. So as of January 1 actually it was August last year, they were not subject to the 3-year rule. And going forward, starting in January, companies up to 5% in a given area in a parish can reduce their book of business and manage their book of business. Do you know what the 3-year rule is? What it was we were the only place, not only in the country, but in the world, that if you had your insurance with your insurance company for your home for 3 years, the insurance company could not drop you unless you didn't pay or you had a tree that you need vegetation growing up. They had to have cause for dropping your insurance policy. Which what happened is that it was very unattractive for companies to come into Louisiana. So new policies now, they're not subject to the 3-year rule. And it also, if there's a concentration of policies in a given area, it didn't give insurance companies the ability to manage their risk. And insurance is about managing their risk. So we have changed the 3-year rule to get in line with every other state in the country to, again, try to make Louisiana attractive. The next bill, Act 8, was by Representative Willard, and it deals with our fortified roof program. And when the legislature first passed the fortified roof program, it had a sunset to it. This basically made the fortified roof program permanent going forward, showing a commitment that Louisiana is serious about mitigation and resiliency of our property moving forward. So this all made it clear that we want to see improvements to the market. And it gives us time, but we have had 12 new home insurers enter the market in 2024 and 2025. And we're seeing fewer and less costly rate increases. So at the end of 2024, the overall impact of the homeowners market was a statewide average of an increase of 6.6%. And through that 1.9% is not accurate because it was accurate as of August, but as of October, we've had this year a 4.6%. State Farm just announced a 9% increase in their homeowners insurance. So that's what's gone. But the good thing that you can say is you look at what the increases were in 23, they were 14%, and in 22 it was a 16.2%. So if you say you're bending the curve down, it is bending some, but we need to do more. I mean, we need to address that, and a lot of this is being driven by inflation. I mean, you have to acknowledge it costs more to get someone to come out to repair your house. And when it costs more to get the wood and the supplies to do your house, it's going to go into the repair. But also, we're trying to address litigation to bring us in line with the rest of the country, because overall the country has had a big increase in homeowners insurance. So, and on the commercial side, you see the same thing. It's coming down, but we still need more to do, but it's better than it has been in the years before. So in 2025, okay, this past legislative session, we got into when does the timeline start? The first bill that you saw last year was the claims process, having a clear law on the books of how the claims process works. When we have been to London, they said they want a definition of satisfactory proof of loss. When does it start? So instead of having a definition, we have come up with a proof of loss claims form. So an insurance company can basically submit to the policyholder and say, we would like you to fill out this claims form. And it is a very simple form. I know it's small, but it basically tells you the policy name, when you had it, and your estimate of what the costs are. This isn't the end of it. This is beginning the process. And what some people will say, well, it's over with. This is just the beginning. This is just saying, I've had a tree fall in my house, or I had a pipe leak in my house, and to start the process. So there's a clear line, so insurance companies know, okay, they have 30 days or 60 days from this deadline to move forward and start settling the claim. That doesn't mean your work's going to be done in your house, but you know the ball is rolling and a clear line. The next bill deals with educating our consumers. So a lot of times people say, I've been paying into my insurance company for years and years. I've never made a claim. I have an account there where I've paid my policies in. Your insurance policy is a year-to-year policy. And when someone else is doing something, we're all in the bucket together. So this next is a rate transparency report, and starting, and you need to look at these effective January 1 of 2027, starting in 27, when you have a renewal on your policy, you're going to have a rate transparency report. And this is to educate the homeowner and the auto driver of what are the cost drivers of your policy. 2% going to the premium tax, which is low for Louisiana. It's more over, it's like 3%. How much is your agent making in the commission? How much does it cost for the insurance company to administer your policy? And then how much profit do they have built into their policy? And then you get into their annual hurricane loss and then reinsurance. A lot of people don't realize that smaller regional insurance companies, in order to spread their risk across the whole globe, they buy usually to the reinsurance market based in Bermuda or London, and they buy reinsurance. And that was a big cost driver after the major hurricanes that hit in 20 and 21. So this is more to educate our consumers so they'll know where your premium dollars are going to cover when you get a homeowner's policy. The next bill, standardize the notice of cancellation. Before this bill went into effect, it was, you would hear 30 days to cancel your policy. And usually they would put something in the mail, and then you would get it, and you'd be like, what's 2 weeks out? And I didn't get my real 30 days notice. So this is standardizing it for all admitted carriers to be a standard 60-day notice of renewal, and also to give the homeowners a reason why they're not renewing a policy. That's more to educate them, because it might be they'll say, well, you had that dead limb hanging over your house that we've asked you to get rid of and you haven't done it. We're having to cancel your policy for that reason, to give a reason to the homeowner. But to standardize that 60 days so you're not scrambling for finding a new insurance company. So this is a very good consumer, God bless you, consumer bill, and especially when you get into this time of year, you start looking at Thanksgiving, Christmas. If someone gets a notice, they need more than the 30-day notice, especially if something gets stuck in the mail. The next bill requires authorized automobile insurance within 10 days to notify the Department of issues. What we found out from the Department of Insurance is agents would find out that this insurance company was not writing anymore and say this parish or that. We would start getting calls to the Department of Insurance and would not know. This is simply to allow the Department of Insurance to know what's going on in the market, to be more informed by the insurance companies, to keep us informed. So it is not subject to public disclosure because we don't want one insurance company necessarily to know what another insurance company is doing right off the bat. They do figure out over time, but the fortified roof program is something that we've committed to. We have increased fees on the industry and on agents. It's $15 every 2 years. The fees that are generated and dedicated to the fortified roof program will generate between $27 and $29 million to the fortified roof program. And this is all about building codes and building stronger in Louisiana and making sure people have good roofs, especially on the coast. It's something that we've seen in Alabama, what they've done. Now they have 2 coastal counties, so Alabama doesn't have the exposure that Louisiana does, but it has worked there. After Hurricane Sally, they saw where the claims were not as high after a major hurricane came through because they have strengthened their building stock, especially focusing on roofs. We've also, if you do not, we have the fortified roof program, which is a grant, but if you decide to put on a fortified roof on your own, you can get a $10,000 tax credit. Now it's limited to $10 million per year, but right now the fortified roof program is really focused on the coastal parishes. But if you decide to put on a fortified roof here in North Louisiana, you could apply it on your income tax, to your state income tax. Now you have to be, if you do it, get your state income tax in early because it is capped at $10 million a year for the next 6 years through 2031. So it's a $60 million program. But it's something that we definitely want stronger roofs. Also, we've Representative Dadberry, who is a local representative for here, is requiring municipalities and parishes who issue permits for construction to inspect all roof construction and re-roofing in compliance with building codes. After a storm, and you have a hurricane, you have a hailstorm come through, I'm sure you have roofers go through all the neighborhoods. They're putting out that a lot of those roofers are tracking the storms. They come in and they're gone after it. We want to make sure that the roofs that are put on your house are good roofs. And 6 months down the road, you're not calling to say, I had a new roof put on, the insurance company paid for it, but now it's leaking, and the roofer's gone. So this is to make sure that they're inspected and done to building codes. We've also got a voluntary roof registry that we are standing up starting this year, and this is to help the industry be able to underwrite your property better. Can anybody tell me exactly when they put on their roof on their house? And they'll look back and they'll say, well, I think I put it on 3 years ago, and it's more like 7 years ago. This is to help the industry, and it is voluntary. You don't have to provide the information, but it's going to work through permits with municipalities for the industry to be able to have an independent area to where they can go and look at when a roof was put on in a certain house. And this can help the realtors too. When you're selling a house, you can say, how old's your roof? There'll be a roof registry there to be able to say, well, that roof was put on 3 years ago versus knowing it could have been 8 years ago. It takes time. Again, you'll see here the results. Now, I'll say that 2% down through 2025. The current number is 4.6%, and that's because State Farm just had a announced increase. So, but it is better than where we have been the past several years. But we still need to bring it in line more with what's happening across the country. What can we do in Louisiana to get us in line with the rest of the country is our goal in the Department of Insurance, to make Louisiana competitive for our citizens. So with that, now I have other insurance reforms which deals with fraud. It's 9:20. I know on the time limit it's sort of like this is opening up for questions now. So I will continue to talk, but if you have a question, stop me, and I have 10 more minutes to talk. But yes, ma'am.
The roof registry. So it's my understanding, based on the information I've gotten from roofers, that they are not actually enforcing the permits on these roofs to be followed up on until January of 26. Is there a way for us to retroactively add people to the roof? I'm just looking forward at roofs. That's
Yeah,
a big deal.
if you can prove, and we're going through setting up, if you can prove to the department, this is when I put a roof on my house, submit that information to the Department of Insurance, and we'll put it.
So is there like an online portal?
There's going to be online that you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to provide that information, but it's going to be for the homeowner to say, I had a new roof put on my house in 2024. Right. This is, where I paid ABC Roofing to put it on. Here's my documentation, and they'll put that on the roofing registry. So, continuing, one of our issues is dealing with public adjusters, dealing with fraud. And if you look at fraud, is a $308.6 billion problem nationwide. And this is prohibiting public adjusters from acting as contractors or roofers if a public adjuster serves for the insureds on the property. So what happens after a storm, and this has really been focused in Florida, you'd have a public adjuster who'd go out and do the estimate on your house, saying it's going to cost X number of dollars to repair your house. Oh, by the way, I've got a construction company on the side. I can fix your house. So it makes that illegal to do that in Louisiana. You either need to be an adjuster or in the construction business, but you don't need to be doing both. So this is to combat fraud, which fraud is a cost driver in our property insurance and auto insurance. I know, I think last week here in the Monroe area there was a staged accident arrest from someone who was done multiple stage accidents, auto accidents in Northeast Louisiana, not just in New Orleans anymore. So do that. Yes. Yes.
So on the tax credits, the state tax credits,
Yes.
we have a lot of times where roofs are determined to need to be replaced during the sale process, and so while we're selling the house, and so sometimes they give an allowance to the buyer to be able to do that, or the seller takes care of it and it's paid out of closing costs. So how does that affect being able to get that state tax credit? Is the tax credit?
If the homeowner, and this is for a fortified roof, not just for a regular roof. Right. So if you've got to own the property, you've got to have a homestead exemption. But if you own the house and you put on a fortified roof, you can apply it on your taxes to get that $10,000 credit towards putting on a fortified roof. Or if the buyer does it, they can claim it too. So, but that was the idea, was instead of people just waiting on the grants from the state, because the overwhelming number of people, we've changed it, like there are in excess of 15,000 people who want the grant. It's a $10,000 grant, which, by the way, is not subject to state income tax either. We had to clarify that this past year too.
Is it a refundable tax credit?
It is a refundable. It's subject to you don't get paid from the state. It's going to offset your income tax, which is another issue that it's a good problem to have, since we've lowered our state income tax to 3% from 6%. It does carry forward. But you need to be in early, because if it's sort of like the solar tax credit. If it gets really popular and people start going after it, now it would roll over to the next year, but it's capped at $10 million a year. Okay. So this allows us the anti-fraud assessment. We actually, before this law was passed, the insurance companies were submitting up to about $5 million to the department every year for insurance fraud. It was going to the Department of Insurance, the Attorney General's office, and Louisiana State Police. If all the money wasn't spent in a year, we'd had to refund it back, and it was out of the $5 million. It was you get to close to $4.8 million. this will allow us to just carry those funds over to next year to address fraud. The industry didn't have an issue with that. It was more of a problem for them to get back any refunds, the small amounts. So this was a good to address fraud going forward. You'll see Commissioner Temple put out a statement last year, this is from last year, addressing fraud, asking all of our consumers, if you see something, if you know of an insurance fraud, report it to the Department of Insurance. I mean, it hurts us all, and a lot of time people just go, well, it doesn't, we all pay for it. So if you know of something, go to our website or call the Department of Insurance, and we'll investigate it and take it from there. But let us know. This is a workers' comp bill, so that's not Act 11. And if you notice, all the other bills were in blue. This is Act 11. This was the bill that the governor pushed. And basically, when this bill was first started in the legislature, it was basically for an insurance policy to have last year's premium and this year's premium on it, so the homeowner could see what their difference in paying. What this bill now does is it basically allows the Commissioner of Insurance to tell an insurance company you've made excessive profits without really defining what excessive profits are. This goes back to sort of more when we had the rating commission before 2007, except for it allowing one person to basically set rates for insurance companies. Currently, what happens is an insurance company submits their rates to the Department of Insurance. The actuaries at the Department of Insurance look at it. If it's actuarially justified, it is approved. If it is not actuarially justified, which I believe 43 times since Commissioner Temple has taken office, the rates have been denied. But it's been based off of the math. It hadn't been based off of politics or picking one insurance company or another. The goal of insurance is you want it to be actuarially justified, but you also want to make sure your insurance company is solvent and that they can pay claims. So this is a very risky bill that was passed. It also allows for the commissioner to do a look-back period to basically say, give a refund for years that you had excessive profits. This is something even more than what California does. It is a very risky thing that's happening. The insurance industry has noticed that Commissioner Temple says we're going to continue to do the same thing in the Department of Insurance. We're still going to use our actuaries. But this is a very risky bill that was pushed by the governor this past year, attracting insurance companies to Louisiana. And I have 2 more minutes. The one thing I can emphasize to everybody is shop your insurance too. There's no way, if you've been with one insurance company for 30 years, that insurance company had the best rates for all those 30 years. It takes some work, but shop your insurance. Competition works. And this past year, I did that myself for my homeowners and my auto, and I saved money. And we were sitting in one meeting with an insurance company, and they said, we have a new policy discount. So when you call in and you start shopping your insurance, it does matter, and you can get discounts, and it makes competition. So don't just accept it. Put the work in. You maybe need to know if your renewal is coming up. Mine was coming up in September. I started in July, and it takes some work, but when you can save 30%, or it was about a 30% decrease, it does matter. So 2 more things I want to show you is we have a good app. Now, I don't expect everybody to use this app every day, but during a storm, it is a very useful information of how to make claims if you have a fraud that you see, and then also the department's website. So with that, I see it's 9:30. I'm not getting waved off yet, but I'm trying to keep it to a time, and I appreciate you allowing me to come and speak to you today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barrow.
Okay.
So if y'all want to look in your binders or in your pamphlets, Barrow's bio is in there. And then also if you have questions for Barrow, you can put them in that QR code, that link, that form, and we'll make sure that you get the answers to those if you use that link, okay?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
Barrow,
thank
thank
you
you so much. Okay, we only have 3 rules today. One rule is these are one-way conversations. So when the panelists are speaking, we're not going to interrupt them. They will each have a time limit of 2 minutes per question. So if you'll allow them to answer their questions without interrupting, make sure your phones are on silent. And then we will have some hard stops. There are no breaks, but if you need to go to the bathroom, we're grown up, so just make your way. And then for legal purposes, panel, for legal purposes, we will not be discussing commissions today, so make sure that we steer clear of that. All right, so let me introduce you to your first panel. If you all will slide forward, we have Ashley Hubenthal. She's at John Ray. She started in 2021.
Rachel suggested walkout music.
I love it. Okay, that's a great idea. Also, if y'all have suggestions for our next event, send those to me. I think that that's fantastic. Rachel Varuki is our second guest. Oh, Ashley's production was 5.5. Rachel Varuki started in 2014 and 14.2 million in production. She's at KW. All right, Micah Dye started in 2021. He's at 14.3 million. He is at Remax, the Dye Brothers Group, and then Andrew is started in 2024 at 5 million in production. He is also at Remax, part of the Dye Group. All right, so each of them will have a 2-minute intro. So Jessica, if you want to start the clock when we change the slide, we'll start with Ashley and she can get started. Use the mic. Nolan, is this mic hot? You ready to go? All right, introduce us.
So I'm Ashley Hubenthal. Are we supposed to just say what's behind us?
Whatever you want to say.
I am from, I don't know, is this on? Or it's just for you?
Yeah.
I am from Monroe. I went to LSU and then I got my master's at University of New Orleans. I have a background in marketing, public relations, event planning, communications. Most recently, I was at Bayou Life and I was the sales manager. So I moved over to real estate about 5 years ago. Malia asked us why we do what we do. And she used things like flexibility and stability and things that I did not relate to. I don't feel any of those things. But I do think that I personally feel like I'm called to serve, and this is a way to do that. Serve my clients, serve the community. She did also ask us our real estate superpower, and I had to ask my friend Leslie what mine was. And she probably said it a lot more eloquently than I did. I said that I'm stubborn, and she said that I just don't take no for an answer. If somebody was like, I had somebody this weekend say, this deal's dead. Well, it's not. So just figuring things out. I'm going to figure out a way to make it work. Some of y'all in this room, we've had deals where you know that personally. And then fun fact, I do have my lifetime hunting and fishing license. Shout out, I see you just came from the deer stand. I think my dad was a wildlife biologist. I think the resources that we have in our community and our state are fun and important. And so that's something that I think is really important and I like to do with my family.
Next slide. Rachel?
Hey, everybody. Okay, I was waiting for the clock to start. Okay, I'm Rachel Varuki. I've been in real estate since 2014. I started as a transaction coordinator with Misty Hodge, and we've been together ever since. We created the Hodge Varuki Group last year. We collaborated together, and she always knew that my 10-year goal was to become a team leader. So we partnered together on that. Let's see a little bit about myself. Fun fact, I was published in the New York Times for a little write-up I did in 2015 about living in the South, and it was real little, but nobody knows that about me. So Malia said, why do you do what you do? And at first I said family. And then she started blowing my phone up and she's like, I need a little bit more than that, you know? And I said, well, that's really why I do what I do is my family. And she was like, well, no, I need you to get deeper. I need you to get deeper. So to be deeper, I said stability. And basically what I mean by that is not to have to worry about my next paycheck and where it comes from, and not have to budget and stress over, buying groceries and getting gas and just your everyday things. Like, I saw my parents struggle when I was little. We never went without, but it wasn't until later in life that I figured out that they were putting groceries and gas on credit cards. So they were literally going into debt to give me and my sister, everything that we wanted. And so I never wanted to have to deal with that. I never wanted to go through the trials and tribulations that they went through. So it really kind of ignited a fire under me to not have an option, but to make it work, And so I think that's where my hustle comes from. And then my superpower, I just said relationships. I focus my business on building genuine relationships with clients and retaining those relationships the best I can throughout the journey and after the journey. And 95% of my business is from referrals due to genuine relationship.
Wow.
No pressure.
No pressure. Morning, guys. I'm Micah Dye. I got started in real estate actually in 2020. I know she said 2021, but I was in Arkansas first. My wife and I lived in Arkansas for 2 years while she finished up physical therapy school. While I was there, my background is in accounting. So I have my degree in accounting from ULM, and then I have my CPA license as well. And, she asked us why we got into real estate. Mine was mainly freedom, and that's more like freedom from a structured schedule. For people that know me best, I've got pretty bad ADD. So like I kind of start getting a little anxious if I feel the walls start closing in, and that's kind of mostly what accounting is. So I got my real estate license in Arkansas first, and worked part-time while I was working for a property management company there. And then we wound up moving back to Louisiana in 2021, and I got my license here. And I was working for Vantage full-time, and then real estate on the side. And Vantage, went through some changes, got bought out by Blue Cross. And after talking with my wife, we decided that we wanted to make a change. And during this, Andrew was talking to me, and he was wanting to make a change in his career as well. And he came to me, he was like, I think I'm going to get my real estate license. And I was like, dang it. Because if he comes in, then we're going to split our sphere and nobody's going to make any money. So we decided we got to do it as a team. Yeah, so that's what we did. So we're like, okay, we've got to do it as a team. So I went full time actually with French with Jay Shepard in October of 2023, and then in January of 2024 we started our team, the Dye Brothers Group.
You got 18 seconds.
I'm done.
Just stop.
My fun fact: I was the number one track and field recruit in the state my senior year of high school. Yeah, and field, not track. I hadn't put on a ton of weight since then. Yeah.
Okay, mine's not going to take 2 minutes. All right, I'm Andrew Dye. I'm Micah's older brother by 8 years, and I'm married to Hallie. We've been married for almost 15 years. We have 3 kids. Our oldest just turned 10, and then we have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, so 2 years apart. So we're busy playing soccer and tennis and all that stuff. But I went to LSU as well, but I graduated with a finance degree, have a background in finance, and straight out of college moved to Monroe. We lived in Monroe for 25 years, but went to LSU, came back, and I was in the oil and gas industry here locally for 12 years before jumping in with Micah last year. And I think I'm probably the most recent real estate agent in here, I guess. But like Micah said, we jumped in together, and it's been a whirlwind, a huge learning experience for me. And I've done deals with a lot of people in this room, probably most everybody, but I've really enjoyed it. The freedom for me was the same reason. And just the ability, like Micah said, to get out and do stuff and not be in an office all day, because I was kind of doing finance, logistics, wearing a lot of hats for an oil company, which I really enjoyed and was a great spot. But this has been really good to open my eyes to all kinds of business here in Monroe. So, but a fun fact for me, it's not really fun, but I was the Louisiana Remax Rookie of the Year last year, which was exciting. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. But then my superpower, it's not really a superpower because, everybody can do it, but consistency is a really big thing for us. And we have those conversations a lot. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about that as we have more questions. But that's something that from the top down, from, marketing to how we communicate with other realtors and how we handle our clients, answer our phone, and the way we structure our work week is really consistent, or we really want it to be. So not a superpower, but it has helped us.
Okay, so question one, if you will, panelists, when you're answering the question, sort of kind of reiterate the question in case we use this for content. We're going to send each of you a little snippet. So, Ashley, you're up first. The question is, how did you build your name and brand before you had business, and how important is branding and presentation in real estate?
So, like I mentioned, I was at Bayou Life magazine for 7 years. Before that, I was in various advertising. I started the Cinderella Project, which is where people get free prom dresses. I started the Dragon Boat Festival. So I've always been out in the community. And at Bayou Life, I worked with so many business owners that trusted me with their business to build their business. I came up with ad campaigns for them. So I kind of already had that trust and relationships with people from a variety of businesses. And then the other, marketing and branding, how important is it in real estate? I would say I'm a psycho about marketing and branding and fonts and colors and all the things. Maybe to a fault, to where I get bogged down sometimes when I'm creating things, or I hyper focus on things. I think it's important in everything, not just real estate. I think it says who you are. I think it says, it speaks to your professionalism, what you're about. And so those are things that I kind of find fun, and I'm using my creativity when I'm coming up with, even I'm gluten-free, and I came up with a gluten-free guide for when people are out and about and they're asking about where they can go eat. I mean, and Brian came into my office the other day and he was like, "Why did you make this?" And I was like, "I don't know. I was bored. It was fun. I don't know." So just I do think that the way that you brand yourself, the way that you present yourself is just important in everything, not just real estate. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Rachel, what conversations, content, and strategies have allowed your customers to build trust with you? In other words, how do you turn a one-time client into a lifelong advocate for your business?
Okay, how do I turn a one-time client into a lifelong advocate for my business? So I have always had the philosophy to treat people how I would want to be treated. I'm honest with them. I'm there for them every step of the way. I try to be as genuine as I can throughout the process and turn it into an actual relationship. They're not a number. They're not a commission. They're not just for stats. They are actual human beings that are in the process of purchasing one of the biggest investments I think that they'll ever make. And so I take that seriously. And it's always been about I go back to quality, the quality of service. It's not quantity for me. And I think that they can feel that. I think that anybody can feel that, as a buyer or a seller, or even colleagues, they know when you're being real, you're a genuine person, you're not just trying to make a dollar. Naturally, we all have to make a dollar to, sustain a business and life. But at the end of the day, I would choose making sure that they are in good hands if that's walking away from a deal rather than making a commission check. And I think that they can feel that. I think that they can see that. And I think that that has really helped my business grow more than I ever could have imagined, which it sounds so simple because you would think that anybody would just be a genuine human being. But, there are a lot of people that they aren't like that. They're not like me. I think the majority of us are. So my advice is just to stay true to yourself, do it for the people, build the relationships, actually be a friend, a mentor, a professional, become a family to them, because you're going to be there for them for the rest of their buying and selling journeys. Sorry. And you hope to have more from them later. Sorry. Okay, I could ramble forever. Sorry, guys.
Hence the time.
I know.
All right, Dabros, I gave y'all 3 minutes to answer this question together, so y'all can decide how you want to handle it. The question is, how did your backgrounds add value and your relationships earn your clients' trust, allowing you to carry that over into this new field?
Okay, I'll talk about the our backgrounds, and then I'll give it to Andrew to talk about the relationships. But our background, or my background, is in accounting, and so accounting is pretty strict on like the way you have to do things. There's a right and wrong way to do things, and so I think that's helpful to an extent. I also like the idea of being creative. And creative accounting is called fraud, so you're not really allowed to do that very often. But I think it gives a healthy perspective on like a right and wrong way to do things, and that kind of prepares you to have some tough conversations. And I've had some tough conversations with people in this room. But it just puts you in a right headspace of like, okay, this is the path that we're going to follow. This is the foundation we're going to set for our business, and we're gonna err on the side of being correct. And so if we have to have a confrontation with, an inspector or another agent or something like that, we always want to come from the side of like being correct. And it's not to like make people feel bad. It's just like, hey, we have this sense of professional standards that we want to operate our business by. And so Andrew, also with his background in logistics, and especially on the commercial side, he's got great relationships with business owners and just understanding kind of the ebb and flow of running a business. And so whenever I try to get caught in my lane of like, okay, this is the justice side of it, Andrew can be the relationship and the grace side that like, hey, there's flexibility here that we need to offer some grace. So.
And the relationship piece, like that's my favorite part of the job. And I know some people don't like the relationship part and they'd rather do the numbers part, and it takes everybody, but the relationship part is where I really, really enjoy it. Whether that's relationships with other realtors or with clients, like that was part of that freedom piece that I was excited about getting out of the office and really just building those relationships. And that's a background from work with like business partners, but also like just being in the community for 25 years. So we go to a large church and we have a lot of really good relationships there. We've both built friendships over the past, 25 years here. And that has really helped us. It was a challenge at first for people that know us and that have good relationships with us to view us as realtors. So that was a bit of a hurdle at the beginning to really kind of rebrand yourself as Mike is no longer a CPA and I'm no longer working for an oil and gas company, but when you think about selling your house, you think of us. And so that was a bit of a challenge that we've had to work through, but it's been really good. And the relationship part is the absolute best. And Monroe's a small town, at the end of the day, it's a big, small town. And so like Micah was saying, like you want to come from a position of being correct, but also like everybody is tied together in this town. And so the way you treat people really matters and it's important to us. So.
It's perfect. Okay, Ashley, your second question is, what strategies do you use to refine your marketing in order to stay visible to your present and past clients?
So the strategies that I use for my marketing, obviously there are, social media and videos and things that are true marketing. But really, at the end of the day, I feel like my strategies are my relationships with people. And I do fun things for my clients throughout the year. And I just think, we talked about this the other day about, I don't always like with advertising, branding, marketing, I don't think it's always important to be like, and I'm your local realtor and are you looking to buy and sell? Like on every single post. I think the more that you're in the community and the more you're building relationships with people, they know that you're who they're going to call when they're buying or selling. To me personally, I think the relationships are my strategy and not so much your typical advertising and marketing, even though that's kind of my thing. So yeah, sorry, I left a minute on the clock.
That's fine.
Okay, Rachel, your second question is, what activities, tasks, events, and or routines give you the biggest return on your investment of time, resources, and energy?
Okay, so what activity, tasks, events, and or routines give me the biggest return on my investment of my time, resources, or energy? So I think I can speak for everybody probably in this room that lead generation and lead follow-up are probably the two biggest things that we do to keep our business going and not stagnant. So I don't think that that's really a secret. But I think that, all of us in here are successful agents, and I think that we put that first. I think that we all lead generate and we all follow up with our people. And my biggest advice is to not go straight to, or this is what I do, is I don't go straight to real estate when I'm making those calls. I really want to know how they're doing. I want to know how little Tommy did in a soccer game. I want to know really about what's going on in your life. What can I help you with besides real estate? I'm a realtor. I've been doing it for 11 years. Everybody knows that. I don't have to be like, hey, I'm still in real estate. They know I am. So, that's not why I'm calling you. I'm really calling to check on you and see how you're doing. I'm not robotic. I'm not there to have a pitch or a script and talk about why you need to list your house with me or buy with me or whatever. I just stick to the truth of being genuine. I really want to know how you're doing. And at the end of the call, hey, look, if you and your family are looking for anything real estate related, just remember me, And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh, well, hey, yeah, my Aunt Martha is about to sell her house. Do you want to come look at it? Well, heck, yes, I do. And so it kind of just is, just be real. Don't be robotic. Don't be so salesy. Go in there and be a person, be a human, and just talk to your people. That's all it is. It's not a secret. That's it. That's all I got to say. And your database. Keep up with your database.
All right. Andrew, Micah, fear and self-doubt hold many agents back. How do you push past your limiting beliefs and shift your mindset to take bigger risk and grow both personally and professionally?
Yeah, so I think everybody struggles with fear and self-doubt, especially when you're doing something new. You think back to the first house you ever sold, or maybe the first one you ever listed, and you get it on the MLS and you're like, it's never going to sell. And you got 5 or 6 showings and nothing comes from it. And you're like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. But that's just the inner voice that you have that is your biggest critic. And so kind of not necessarily silencing that voice, but changing, getting control over that voice to reframe your mindset to something that's more positive. That's something that's going to build you up, because nobody's going to tear you down more than you tear yourself down. And so that's something that, speaking for myself, that I've had to work through over the past few years of doing this. And then the main thing of pushing through that is just leaning on God. That's what Andrew and I do in everything we do. And we pray about things before we kind of venture into them. And this business is no exception. There was about 6 months worth of prayer that we put in to make sure that we're making the right decision, because our judgment and our wisdom can only go so far. So we lean on that in everything.
And I'd say 2 things. So the question involves like fear, stepping out and doing something new. The first thing for me would be surrounding yourself with people that build you up and encourage you. Because if it weren't for Micah, we wouldn't do courageous things, and probably vice versa. And so it's a big deal that Micah's in the ship with me, but also our wives are super supportive. And we, basically everything we do, they are good to go with it. And it's really been a really excellent experience for us. But we also come from a background of having a dad that was really encouraging to us you could basically do anything. And so it's a really big benefit. And so he built that courage into us at a young age, and it goes a long way. But like Micah said, at the end of the day, you can be fearful and you can be anxious, but it's not going to change the outcome of anything. And so we are Christians, and we find our identity in the Lord. And so at the end of the day, it's you're not going to, if a deal goes wrong, or if you don't hit that number that's your goal, that's not where our identity is found. That's not what we're not looking at ourselves in the mirror and thinking we have less value after that. Our value is in the Lord, and we're still sons of Him either way. And so that's where our mindset is, and it takes away a lot of that fear, having people in a boat with you and just viewing yourself. You're not that last deal that you did, and you're not the deal that you never got. You are valuable, and you work hard and you be consistent, and that's kind of our thing.
And at the end of the day, nobody's going to die. So the stakes aren't that high. This isn't surgery. So somebody may lose a house, may lose some money, but nobody's going to die. So
We hope not.
Okay. Ashley, what is something that we should have asked you specifically today?
So I feel like our office sometimes leans on me or talks to me about things to post, how do you post on social media? What should I post? And I think one of the things that we don't talk about is maybe what not to post. And so I didn't send Malia my answers. So this is just going to be a hot take. I think that there are, especially in the last year or two with this whole change with buyer's agency, just a lot of talk about our industry and how we are viewed in our profession and commission and all these things. I'm not saying numbers. So I know a lot of us follow these accounts that can poke fun at our industry, and sometimes those things are shared. And I think they're funny, and I'll send them to my agent friends. But I would encourage you not to post those things. I think that they could be taken as, well, you're lazy, you're just a door opener, like all these things that I think we're already overcoming. And so just to be mindful of that when you're sharing things, of how it could be viewed, because your audience is your people, your sphere, your clients. It's not other agents. So I just would maybe shy away from that.
I love it.
Okay. Rachel, what is one thing we should have asked you specifically today?
I wrote back to you and said, was it hard? Because I think a lot of times people get in the business and they think it's going to be easy. They see HGTV and they think that they're about to be on Selling Sunset and all the glitz and glam, and they don't see us being therapists. They don't see us, with all of our checklists. They don't see us going to bed at 11 o'clock at night. They don't see us waking up at 4 a.m. They don't see us not sleeping at all because the deal's about to fall through, and it is the end of the world. I do feel like we're about to die. They don't see all the turmoil. They don't see all the turmoil that we go through as agents, and that is a superpower that I feel like we all have, is that we don't let them know that, right? Like, we are the punching bag. We take all of the hits, and they feel like they're going through a crisis, right? Because they're getting bits and pieces of what the deal is, but they have no idea what we're doing behind the scenes. And so I said, was it hard? Was it hard to become a realtor? Yes, it was hard to become a realtor. And I'm not only talking about taking the test, I'm just talking about in general, it was hard to have a business, build a business. Like I was saying earlier, I've been in the business 11 years. And for the first 5 to 6 years, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I wasn't sure what was coming next. I almost quit like 7 times, because I was like, I'm going to go work at Peachtree Dental. Like, I'm just going to go have a desk job. I'm not going to do this anymore. I put a resume in at Angus. I was going to go wear a hard hat. I didn't know what was, that's what I'm saying. But I just kept going. And Misty, I have to give her credit. She kept just being like, girl, I want to be a dog groomer. She was like, about 10 years in, I want to be a dog groomer. And Ralph told me to get up and go to work, And so I was lucky that I had her in my corner because she kept me up. And here we are 11 years later, and we're killing it. And I'm thankful for that. We have an amazing group of people on our team that keep us up. I know it's over. Okay, bye. Okay. It was hard.
Shout out Chris Gary.
Okay, Micah and Andrew, what is the one thing we should have specifically asked you today?
So I feel like one of the most common questions that people ask realtors is like, what can I do to get my business up and running or to flourish? But I think the real question would be, what can I stop doing? And that was really kind of a mindset change for us. What can we stop doing to make ourselves better? And the main thing was comparison, because you've got big names that are out there, and even like most of the people at this table, like if they get a big deal or if we lost a listing to one of these people, which I don't think we ever would, but But if you lose a listing, you're like, what did I do wrong? Like, why are they better than me? And things like that. And when I first started with Jay, I was like, Jay's absolutely killing it. Like, how can I be more like him? And eventually you stop asking yourself, stop comparing yourself to other people. You find your lane, you find what works for you, and you kind of carve out that niche and you serve your clients best in that way. And then you have more fulfillment. That's a whole lot easier business to run because you're not trying to be like anybody else. You're not keeping up with the Joneses. You're not, overextending yourself, and you just kind of fit that role a little bit better because there's always going to be a place in the marketplace for you. There's already, an Andrew Dye, a Rachel Barucki, and Ashley Hubenthal. Like that's already taken. That's already there. So find what works for you and work that route. Now, to say that there are things you have to do, lead generation, lead follow-up, but find what works for you and stop comparing to other realtors.
I think the question that I should have been asked is like, why am I up here with these guys? Because I've been in this business for like 18 months. But and I look out here and there's so many great agents and Jay Shepard and but I'm just honored to be up here. I mean, I know I'm fairly new and I'm still learning a lot from everybody, and just honored to be a part of you guys and to be mentioned, be up here at this table.
So this next round, we're going to give the audience your best takeaway. So each of you will answer this question. If you could give the audience one thing to take away today to help them learn from your experience, what would that be?
If I could give you one takeaway, it would basically be exactly what Micah just said. I know when I got started, I listened to all the podcasts and read the books and all these things. And every week I was like, oh, I got to do that. And I got to do that. And I got to do that. And then all of a sudden I wasn't being true to myself. And I remember specifically somebody told me, like, you've got to get Google reviews and you've got to ask for them 3 different times and you got to do it this. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I got to get Google reviews. Y'all, I think I may have 1 Google review. And I was convinced that like I was never going to make it if I didn't have Google reviews. And I think I'm good. So I think just to figure out what works and what doesn't work and what speaks to your business and what speaks to your people, and just to be true to that. And I think your business will grow, but you'll also be happy and settled and content. And yeah.
Same question.
Okay.
Yep.
So one of, I don't know, the biggest takeaways today to help anybody learn from my experience, I would make sure as realtors and as business owners that you do go ahead and set up your LLC if you haven't done that. I'm sure every single person in here has. I think that, getting a CPA, a financial advisor, anybody that can help you, with your taxes and your money and all that good stuff. I mean, that's kind of like the logistics side of what I think that you should do if you haven't done it yet. As far as just business wise, I think keeping up with your database from day one, because that can turn into a whole cluster if you don't change their address a few times that they've moved, and then like you're trying to send out Christmas cards and oh well, they haven't lived there for 10 years. I think you just need to like keep up with your stuff, consistency. And then I got a real estate coach this year, and it's an investment. And it has done wonders for me. So if you need support and accountability, because I definitely do, I'm a procrastinator. I mean, that's like my middle name. And so if she gives me a task and it's one that I don't want to do, she will stay on me until I do it. So I think that, having an accountability partner, a coach, whatever that looks like, I definitely think it's worth the investment. And it makes you want to do better. It makes you want to do those things that you don't want to do and that you put off doing, because you know that you're going to have to answer to her every Monday. And if you don't have your stuff done, that's a really awkward conversation. So that's my 2 cents.
What was the question again?
The question
That
is,
one.
if you could give one piece of takeaway advice today to help this audience learn from your experience, what would that be?
I think it would just be to stack good days. Anybody can come in into the office and have one good day, but you're not really going to see that much progress if you just, okay, I made this many phone calls, I got this many appointments, like whatever. That's not really going to change your life. But if you could put together, 180 good days or a year of good days, like you're going to really, really start seeing some progress from that. And that's what, I look at. I'm super competitive, love sports. So like football, you look at Indiana, that's what Kurt Cignetti, the head coach of Indiana, they won, I think, no games 2 or 3 years ago, and now they're the number 2 team in the country. And what he says, just stack good days. Just be determined that whatever it looks like, if it's getting your database in order, if it's making phone calls, whatever, that you're moving that line just a little bit. And even if it's a fraction of a percent that you got better today, over time, that's going to compound, and you're going to see huge results just from the consistency.
Yeah, if you listen to any of Cignetti's interviews, he's going to mention consistency every single time. And that's a really good point. I would end with this: just don't give up, because the market is always changing. And I've had a lot of conversations with high producing agents that, everybody, when our business is like this, it's easy to ride that emotional roller coaster like that. And sometimes you get the feel that you want to give up. So I would encourage you, do not give up, and continue to stack those good days, because it does get better. And one deal does not make your career. So
I'll feed off that real quick. I just have one quote, and it's from Nick Saban. Don't worry about winning. Worry about the process. When you master the process, the rest will come. Everybody gets so caught up with winning, being the best, being number one. Don't focus on that. Focus on the process, and it'll fall into place.
Cignetti was
I thought you were going to break news that Saban was coming back to LMC.
Okay, very good. If you have questions for this panelist, make sure that you put it in the QR code, and then at the very end, we'll have some time to kind of reflect and ask some questions. So keep your notes. Panelists, if y'all will too, write down your little nuggets, your little aha, so at the end we can all kind of share. Okay, so for panel 2, we have Kathy Patrick. Kathy started in 2002, sorry. She's at $7 million in production. She's at Keller Williams. We have Mikhail Key. He's at Mikhail Key Realty. He started in February of 2016 and is at $9 million in production. We have Miss Tammy Gunter, who's at Gold Key Realty, and she started in 2007, is at 9.4 in production. And then Miss Chelsea Ross. She started in July of 2019 and is at $11 million, and she has the Haven Home team. Okay. So we'll start first with intros. And we'll start here with you, Kathy. You have 2 minutes. Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Kathy Patrick.
Just speak up. It's going to the feed. No, you need to use it. It's going back there.
Okay. My name is Kathy Patrick, and I've been in business for a long time, as that showed, and put my age on me. So anyway, I found myself in the luxury agent market, but I said my superpower is being trusted, and I wanted to kind of expound on that. I think that's being trusted to try to work to achieve whatever my clients want, to be tenacious, to be fair, to try to work for a win-win deal, not not a win-lose or put somebody out there, to be trusted to. We should be protecting our reputation, as they said, with that, and trying to make all of the parties look good in this situation, and not try to make somebody else out to be, inferior or whatever, because it reflects on all of us. So, and then to do the right thing. If you ever do make a mistake or anything, to own up to it. My big why, it started out for my family. My oldest daughter was really sick, and I worked for somebody else, and she went in the hospital, and I wasn't there, and it was devastating to me. And so I started renovating houses, and then I was paying Judy and them to sell them, and then I thought, wait a minute. So then I got my license. And so it's changed over the years. I then wanted to leave a legacy. I wanted my daughter India to take over the business. I don't know if she's as loves it as much as I do, but she's been a big help to me. And now I want to fund family vacations for everybody. And then my fun fact: I hunt alligators, and I won the big buck contest one year.
Hey guys, I'm Mikhail Key. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I think February of 26 would be my 10th year in real estate. I'm a dad, and I'll just jump to my big why, and that's freedom. And I think because of the freedom that real estate has allowed me, I'm a better parent, I'm a better son, I'm a better friend, and I'm able to do a lot of things. Like, fun fact, I made 40 this year. I cycled in the Pyrenees Mountains with some friends. We stayed there for a week. And I think when you look at, what real estate gives a lot of us, it gives us the freedom to be able to do those things, to be able to travel and explore, which in return helps your professional career. I can't tell you the amount of things I've seen in other places that as an investor, I've been able to bring back to North Louisiana. I think my real estate superpower is networking. When I look, around this room, I think about like Melissa. My second investment project, I closed with her. And I think that's what this room represents more than anything. It represents the journey that all of us have been through, and what real estate and what the friendships and the relationships that we've had in this room, how it has impacted us along the way. And I think that's who I am. That's You got top 30. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Did I leave anything out, Belia?
I don't think so. I think you did a good job.
All right.
All right. Tammy, tell us about you.
My name is Tammy Gunner. I've been in this industry, I guess, about 9 years now. Got my broker's license a little over, 2 years ago. Started my own agency. I'm originally from Ouachita Parish. People in this room have been my agents before I was an agent. But I moved, transplanted, as I said, to Jackson Parish, and started my own agency down there, and been blessed to have good, ethical agents with me. And that was my biggest thing. Communication. I think that's the biggest thing. I laugh when I answer the phone and they's like, "Oh, I was getting ready to leave you a voicemail." And I'm like, "No, I'm live." And so y'all probably all answer your phones, but communication, but also not only with my clients, is a big thing with me. They know that I'm going to communicate every step. I apologize in advance. I'm an over communicator, but they appreciate it when, there's putting their total trust in us. And also, I overly communicate with agents. Andrew probably didn't even recognize me today because I wasn't in my pajamas. He sold a house down the road from me, and I'm like, and now I was like, if I'm not in my pajamas, you're not going to recognize me. But communicating, like, slow down on my road. So, yeah. So, because I warned him. Wine connection. I just love people. And, I think if you can make someone smile or, something every day, bless someone, because you never know when you're walking by someone, they're having the worst day of their life, and you just smile at them and say, "Good morning." That's just a big thing. I can't sing, and I sure can't dance. So that's probably my two things I just don't do unless I've had too much wine. But that's it.
Perfect. Hello, Chelsea Ross. If you've ever heard me talk about my experiences, I'll say I've had many past lives. So I moved away as fast as I could and went down south. And while I was in college, worked at McElhenney, which is Tabasco sauce. So I worked in the brand marketing department. There were only 2 women running 152 countries. So I really got thrown into marketing. Then from there, ended up in Tampa, Florida, lived there for almost 10 years. Got a dual master's, worked in wealth management. So I had a master's in finance, and then started working at the startup world. And so had all these really fun experiences, spent most of my time before real estate at a consulting firm that was global and got to work on projects for like 80% of the companies on the Fortune 500. So really had just like this curiosity to just learn about anything I could learn about. And what I really learned in those things was just being able to absorb from other people, just being curious, learning about other people. So if we've ever talked, I've probably listened a lot more than I've shared about my own world. But yeah, had all those experiences, was living in Denver, Colorado before I decided to move back for family because I couldn't convince them to go anywhere with a big mall. But anyway, so moved back here. Didn't like my boss that was in London. So I was like, I got to quit this job. That's how I got into real estate. My best friend, Dwayne Sutton, who got me into investment properties, was like, you should get your real estate license. He didn't tell me what that meant and how much work that was and how crazy it is. But anyway, I got my license. The rest is history. Started a team, then a new version of the team. And yeah, so that's it. My why, growth, as simple as it can be. I just love to learn. I love to challenge myself to see what my capacity is, how far I can go, how I can improve. I'd say my superpower whenever it comes to real estate, clarity. To be able to sort through the noise, to be able to really think what's the most efficient way to do something. That's it. And then I write music. So there you go.
Okay. Kathy, our question for you today is, what are the biggest differences between working in the luxury markets versus working traditional real estate?
So there's a couple of big differences, and one would be expectations. All buyers have expectations. All sellers have expectations. But I feel like that in the luxury market, a lot of times they expect you to anticipate those expectations. And so meet them without them even having been expressed. And so it requires a very high level of communication and listening and then anticipation to handle those objections before they're even made. The other thing is that a lot of times on luxury, it can take longer. It's more days on market. So it's more time to find the right house. A lot of times in lower level housing, people move because they need to move. In luxury, a lot of times they're waiting on the house that they want. And so it may be, I'm looking for this, or I want a house on this street. And I've actually gone with a buyer in mind and gone and door knocked like Island Drive and sold 2 houses on Island Drive from that never hit the market. One was at 1.3 million and one was at 700,000. I think my highest residential commission was 60,000, and my highest commercial was 95,000, and that was a referral from a luxury agent. So again, that one didn't hit the market. I did that one with Kim Brazier, who's not here, but hopefully will show up. But anyway, so I think it's opening up those lines of communication and following up and communicating and anticipating those expectations.
Okay, Mikhail, you specialize, your niche is commercial real estate. So what marketing strategies have been most effective for generating leads and selling commercial property?
So I would say 3. I have some platforms that I use. I use Reonomy and Crexy. And I think what that allows me to do is I'm a cold caller. That's really the only thing that I do is cold call, but it allows me to manipulate my filters where I can strategically target property owners who have mortgages that are becoming due in the next couple of years. Or I do a lot of driving for dollars. So I ride around the communities and see properties that need grass cut or, may have some apartment units that are abandoned. And I call and talk to those owners. And one thing, I've realized is that, when you cold call owners, you may call 50 to 100 people throughout the week. There'll be 5 that, will answer the phone for you and want to have a strategic conversation. So that has worked, extremely, extremely well for me. And I use some residential platforms too, which, I've used batchleads.com. And that actually turned out to be one of my largest deals, one of my biggest commissions. So I would say cold call to owners, number one. But not just cold calling, but strategically figuring out, who are you calling? How could you, particularly help them? And then drive out in your community, get out there, look at properties, look at opportunities. I'm an investor also, so I have that lens where I can look at a property and say, oh, this property is probably owned by somebody that may be interested in having a conversation. So that has helped me. So driving for dollars, cold calling, and investing in these platforms. These platforms have a wealth of knowledge on there, and if you subscribe to them, you will get information that the average person won't have.
Nice. Okay. Tammy, your question is, how do you handle the constant evolution of the Airbnb short-term rental space from changing laws, rules, algorithms, and then just new guest trends?
So the laws, they often changed in 2024. When we talk about short-term rentals, usually we're talking about Airbnbs and VRBOs. They did change to, if you have one now, you get a 1099. It's up to you to report or not, but they are reporting it. So if you have clients looking at that, keeping up to date, their websites will actually tell you of upcoming changes and alerts. So the laws, rules. Also, you got to look at like the covenant restrictions if you're opening one in certain areas, or they have amended the covenant restrictions that is from short-term rentals. You're seeing that a lot in new subdivisions. So if you know that person may be using that as a secondary home or offsetting that, to really look at those covenant restrictions. And it says no short-term rentals. The rules, how many have a short-term rental? I know me and Shane, a couple of us do. You got to be really careful if you are an agent. Do you allow pets? You always say yes. Service and support animals. You got to be very careful on that. I've noticed that also by talking to other owners, if you say yes, you seem to have more tenants want to rent your place because it's pet friendly. Trends that I see a lot too, it's also happening in the rural areas. Columbia, outskirt areas are also doing short-term rentals because there are very few hotels or hotels you want to stay at. Family reunions, bridal parties, things like that. So even the rural areas are really growing in Airbnb and VRBOs. And it's often cheaper, even in the city, for couples to go together if they're traveling to rent a home than it is to stay in a hotel. So a lot of sporting complexes, things like that, location. More people are staying than just vacation.
Okay. Chelsea, your question is, what are some key mistakes agents make when it comes to technology and systems?
Okay, when we're thinking about key mistakes around agents with technology and systems, first, to me, these things are interconnected, but they're different. So technology is technology. It's the platforms you're using, right? Systems, to me, that's the process in which of how you do something. So within our team, we call these our SOPs. These are our standard operating procedures. So do you have a defined way that you do whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a lead source or how you do when you're under contract, right? So if you've ever done a deal with us, there's a few things that are going to happen. One, I'm going to put you in a group chat, right? That's the first thing that happens. Next, you're going to get a predefined text message that sounds almost always the same from our TC. Some emails are going to go out. That's always consistent. That's part of our system. And then you have technology. So for me, I think the number one is not using them, right? That's probably the biggest mistake. I think the next is if you are using technology in your business, are you familiar with all the features? Did you watch the tutorial? Did you read the guide? Do you know how to use most of the system? I think just in general with most technology platforms, most people only use about 25% of the system. So if you really learned how to use this to make yourself more efficient, more effective, and really figured out how to pull out all the benefits, if you haven't spent time, especially if you're paying for these things, that's the number one thing that you can do. Most of them also allow you to subscribe to like feature updates. I subscribe to everything that we use within our team. If you don't know me, I love technology. We use a lot of it. So make sure you're subscribing to that. Stay up with what's actually happening and make sure that you're staying smart on those things. For systems, do you have a written process? If you don't have any systems in your business, especially SOPs, a standard way of doing something, I think the easiest one to start with is when you go under contract, what happens? and making sure that you have that detailed out and written down. And that's a good place to just start. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, what's my system for marketing? How am I going to do it for open houses? And those things can be interconnected because you may leverage technology to run a lot of those systems, but not always.
Okay. Kathy, your second question is, how do you build credibility and offer a more exclusive experience to attract those high net worth clients?
So I think my background comes into play there. I have had several careers. I was a national bank examiner for the U.S. Department of Treasury when I was 21 years old. I was a CPA and practiced in that field. And also I worked in healthcare internal audit before coming over to real estate. And so with that, I made a lot of connections and a lot of luxury connections, and I nurtured those. I don't really like to go out and make my appearances at all the parties and stuff as much anymore, but I did work the social crowd in order to make those connections and try to be known as a realtor after that. And I think that once you get to have that credibility with that, it ends up with referrals. And so that's a big thing, is that once you become trusted to know the market and to I think, as Ashley said, maybe said stubborn, but tenacious in trying to really track down the best deal for this person, and not just any deal, putting it together. But regardless of how much time is involved in a luxury client, you don't get weary, and you don't stop with the communication and that kind of thing. So I think that, and Rachel said this, we build relationships, and those relationships turn into lifelong clients, but not only lifelong clients, but big referrals. And so somebody I sold the house to, and then I mentioned that my biggest commercial deal was with Kim Brazier, and then I got a referral for them too, and for $1 million. So that's a big thing, is those referrals.
Okay. Mikhail, so your second question is, how do you develop relationships with commercial developers, investors, and referral partners?
So I think, everything comes down to relatability. And I think Rachel said it best. A lot of these potential clients aren't looking to be sold. They want to know a little bit about you. And I think so relatability, and I think listening. I think that's so important, especially in the commercial world, because you're engaging with individuals who know the industry a lot better than you. So people not really more so interested in what you know, but more so how can you help them? I think back to here recently, a gas station that I sold in Ruston was for a guy that lives in Peru. And it started out as a lease. I was trying to help him lease the building, but by me engaging in conversations, making active notes, and just knowing that when the opportunity presented itself and when a potential buyer, I had a conversation with a buyer about another property, because I can reference the conversation that I had with my client previously. I knew that was a deal that could possibly be brokered. So I think relatability, and I think also one thing that I've been encouraging a lot of realtors to do is get out and invest. I think when you invest, that adds a layer of credibility to you. So I'm not scared to call anybody. And I can tell y'all some of the names of individuals that I've cold called are people that most people won't call. Like, I know that I can't do anything for this person. They own everything in town. And I'm like, no, I've just closed a deal with that person. So I think getting the credibility, but the credibility comes from the experience and your ability to not be scared. To initiate that contact, but then knowing your industry and not trying to do so many things. I see so many agents now trying to jump around into commercial, residential, industrial, whatever. Just find what you can be great at, learn it, speak the language, learn the terms, and then go out and meet people.
Perfect. All right, Tammy, your question too is, what is something you wish you had known before moving into this niche, and what advice would you give someone wanting to purchase their first short-term rental?
First of all, you have to either have the capital or you're going to have to mortgage. Obviously, if you don't have the capital, really look at like a 520 ARM, especially since rates are so high. But you have to count in the total, which are really your net versus your gross, and really figure it's going to be a little bit more because your insurance is higher. You do have your off seasons depending on what area you are in. Your taxes are higher than your primary home, even for your clients when you talk to them. I would have signed with a contract with my husband that we were going to sell within 1 year and 1 day, but now it's been 4 years of owning these properties. So I'm stuck with them. Things also that I would tell you before you purchase is know exactly what your competition is and what the return is. I actually did some numbers and you'd be quite surprised. Actually, I'll tell you real quick. West Monroe Airbnb versus VRBO, there are more Airbnbs because you could be a room versus an entire home. There are more Airbnb than VRBO. West Monroe, there is 100 to 150, the Monroe, West Monroe area for Airbnb. Ruston, over 200 and over 500. Greater than 60. Columbia even has 27. So, really know the market and what type of person is staying there and renting those. If you're closer to the Ike Campbell Center, it's probably going to be sports or something related to that. The decor needs to match that. The propane grill, I hate the propane grill. If you're in a rural country setting, someone has to clean the grill and the housekeeper don't clean the grill. I'm the grill cleaner, and so I hate the grill. So know exactly when you put something somewhere, what you're going to have to spend that time.
Okay, Chelsea, your second question is, how does your technology and system strategy shift with changes in the market and the ever-changing tech environment?
Yeah. So how does tech and systems change based on the market and the tech environment changing? Well, one, technology is always changing. I would say for me, it's less about what's happening in the market. Maybe my systems change based on what's happening in the market. So for instance, during COVID, if you were going after FSBOs, you had a system around FSBOs. So we had a SOP around them. Everybody and their grandma could sell a house then. That system probably doesn't work, right? So there is some adjustments there. But in terms of technology, it's more about how is your business changing? That's really been the biggest driver of whenever we're looking at adding different systems, whether that's a CRM or something else that we're bringing in to really help us be more efficient and effective. So I really have a filter whenever it comes to technology. If you're trying to decide, should I start paying for this? Here's my quick filter that I do. Number one, are you going to even use it, right? There's a joke in real estate of if you want to make a lot of money, build something that you can sell to a real estate agent, right? Because we buy a bunch of shit. Are you going to use it? That's number one, right? And so then from there, does it save me time? Will it create more deals? Or will it make a better experience for my client? Those are really my filters whenever I'm looking at technology, when we're looking at platforms, when we're trying to decide what's worth it. Then I'll get into how much it costs and am I going to get the return I want? But I really start to look there and decide, is this going to move the business forward? Is this really going to serve us? Am I going to spend the time to figure out how to use it efficiently and effectively? And I think that's really, really where you want to start whenever you're thinking about, do you need to make a shift? Does your business need you to make a shift?
Okay. Kathy, what is one thing we should have asked you specifically?
I don't know. I have to go first. I think that the big thing is and this has been spoken to before, is when things are taking a long time or the market's slow. Like I've got some people who've kind of been, they're waiting on a particular house and a particular thing, and so you work with them for sometimes over a year, and sometimes more than 2 years. And so it's not to get discouraged, to stay in contact, to stay in there and to keep just working on the relationships when the inventory's not there. And so I think that Rachel pointed this out with just, the calls and checking in, and it doesn't always have to be about real estate. But it keeps you front and center and in mind, so that when it does come up. And the other thing is I think that I keep my numbers, and I keep my numbers by referral income, commercial income, residential, lot sales, and different things. And it will remind me to go back, and when I've sat there and been short on, say, referral income, to go and ask for referrals. And it really will turns into money. It is amazing how many times that what you focus on expands. And so when you focus on that, it turns into deals and it turns into money. So I think keep track of your income and what your source is. If you want to do it if it's by advertising or branding or by referral or whatever, but keep track of it. So therefore you can know whenever numbers start to slide, where to put that focus back.
Okay. Mikhail, what is the one thing we should have asked you specifically?
I think, did you always see yourself getting into real estate? And I think, as I network and I meet, other agents, I think Micah, kind of talked about it, but I mean, he had a previous career as a CPA. I think you were a CPA. I think real estate all got us from somewhere else. I was a retail guy traveling around running big box stores, and, encountered a painful period and met Kim Brazier and Christy Wheeler and, ended up, a realtor at Keller Williams. And I think that, when I look back, my first 5, 6, 7 years as a realtor, it was a lot of one-offs. I have a year where I sell one property or, 2 properties. And now, when I look at what I'm able to accomplish, I think it all comes full circle that, it was all a part of a journey, and when you tell that journey, it helps with the relatability with clients. Your clients are out there and they're all investors and they're all going through the same thing that we're all experiencing in the room. And before you know it, you have a lifelong friend, you have a lifelong client because of your story. I don't think we're all here just because we're great. I think that is God's plan. And I think we're all here for a reason to fit into a bigger ecosystem that's called real estate. And there's so many different branches in real estate. And it's like, okay, what's your journey? Who does it connect with? I was a retail guy. I went to LSU. There's several people in this room that went to LSU. That's one relatable factor. So when you're able to reach back and tell your story, you'd be surprised at how many people share common denominators with you, and it helps. So I think that's a question that you can ask me and probably a lot of people around the room, and you'll get so many different answers.
Absolutely. Thank you. Tammy, what is one thing we should have asked you specifically today?
Since I'm talking about short-term rentals, is it worth it? And I think the biggest thing is you really got to look at your gross and your net. I think on average, even though mine stays pretty booked consistently, would make it just as much money if I were to do a long-term rental versus a short-term rental, because I don't have the overhead of utilities, higher vacancy insurance, lawn mowing, things like that. But I do have more control. So I don't have someone there trashing my place without me knowing. I do have a little more control who can stay there and who doesn't, or get them to leave. So some of that is control of who you write a contract with is only for a short-term period. The other thing I would tell you should know is some of my clients have asked me about it because they knew I was invested in some of these. Sometimes they need to move, but they cannot get their home sold. And so they have turned it into a short-term rental or use the guest house in the back to offset some of the costs. People going through a divorce, the wife wants to remain in the home, but she can't buy another house until the divorce is done. So there's reasons why some people do these short-term rentals, and it's not just because they want to, but they need to till they get to a different point of financial situation, or keep it on the market. I have one that's on the market that is for sale and under contract, but it is continued to be rented out until the deal closes. So it's not just for investment properties. Some your clients may be looking at that too, or if you have property you want to get rid of, but there might be an opportunity to offset cost.
Okay. Chelsea, what is the one thing we should have specifically asked you today?
Probably something around AI. I love it. Out of curiosity, who here is using a form of AI, whether personally or in business? If you're not, get on the train. Train is moving, whether you want to be on it or not. And it's going to leave you behind, right? I think AI is such a fascinating place. If you're not sure where to start, chatbot's a great place to start, right? There's so many forums of video editors and marketing and all the things that it can automate. But if you were just starting baseline, start with just a chat AI. Whether that's ChatGPT, Gronk, Perplexity, pick one, doesn't matter. Gemini, not my favorite, but whatever. And really start to think about how can you use this to be better, right? How can this help you go further? I feel like for the people who are using AI, there's really two buckets of people. You have the first one, which is think for me. Write an email, create a text to respond to this person, give me the verbiage for my remarks on the MLS, whatever. You have that version. I think the people who are really going to capitalize the power is how do I use this to become better? How do I use this to go further? How do I use this to think deeper? And so it's really being more strategic around, let me use this to go through the process. Let me get clarity on my brand. Let me get clarity on the systems that I actually need to roll out. Let me figure out the best way to prioritize and really using it as a thought partner, really going a lot further than just, hey, write this email for me. Starting to really think about your business. If you're doing business planning right now and you're not using AI to really help you steer that, you're really missing out on an awesome opportunity because the amount of clarity you can get by the end of it is incredible. So if you don't have it on your home screen of your phone, I would tell you to download it today. And if you don't know where to start, hop in there and say, I heard about the AI. They were talking about the systems. They said I need to do these things. These are the things that stood out. How can I use you in my business? And that's where you really start to see a lot of power coming. And also, if you ever want to talk about technology or anything, call me.
Okay. This one will be the same for everyone. So the question is, if you could give the audience one thing to take away today to help them learn from your experience, what would that be?
I think being bold. Don't be afraid to make the ask. Don't be afraid to make the call. Don't be afraid to, cold call or whatever it is. I have, I think I mentioned on several things that some of my big sales were from door knocking and from asking. I had a buyer who had a need and there was nothing in inventory, and it's to go do the research and make the ask. So I think being bold to do that do I have to take 2 minutes?
Nope.
I think that's a big thing to do. And then answer your phones. Use your phones. Don't just use text. Answer your phones. If you don't answer your phone, I sit there and with my clients asking for feedback or whatever it is, and they're saying, well, have you reached out to them? And I'm like, yes, I have reached out, and I want you to look good because I think we all need to look good in order to build up our community. So help me out. Answer your phones. So that's it.
Same question. If you could give the audience one thing to take away today to help them learn from your experience, what would that be?
Malia, that's a good question. I think these rooms are, so big and so intimidating, but I think that, I've never looked at real estate as I've never looked at anybody in here as competition. I met Shane when I first got into real estate. He does a lot. He's not a competitor of mine. And I think if you use these rooms properly, you figure out that you have so much value to offer because all of us are trying to sell deals. And we all have big listings that have been on the market. So inserting yourself into that and saying, how can I help you? That's one of the greatest questions. I get cold calls from Coa Banker agents all the time. And I appreciate that because they're letting me know that they're willing to, get down and close a deal. and I think that, don't be scared. I can't tell you the years that I wasted by not just being able to understand that all I had to do was go shake somebody's hand, pick up the phone and call them. So don't be scared. When we close a deal, there's a closing attorney at the table. There was a property inspector somewhere. There was probably 2 realtors. I love dual agents, but most of the time it's 2 agents. There's a banker. There's so many people that helps with this process. And where I'm getting at with that is that when you understand that we're a part of a big team and everybody's trying to get paid, then you'll understand that you matter. So I think that'd be the biggest thing. Just know that you matter and your experience matters. I don't care if you close 5 deals or 500 deals, you still matter. Me and Scott's done some stuff together. He's young, he's in his early 20s, and look at him. So you can do it.
Perfect. All right. Tammy, if you could give the audience one thing to take away today to help them learn from your experience, what would that be?
If you don't have the time, don't get into short-term rentals. Of course, in big cities, Destin, I'm not just talking local, but Destin, different things, they do have management companies, but they take a lot of your profits. You always have to have at least 2 housekeepers because one's going to get sick or one can't make it, and it's on a Sunday. And me and Shane was talking about that earlier. We both have a back-to-back on a Sunday. So you got a 4-hour window to change 4 beds and vacuum and mop. So the housekeeper's on Sunday and she goes to church, and it's not going to be Tammy. Good record keeping. You can ask me for my lawnmower receipt from 10 years ago, and I'm going to go pull it for you. And not just the receipt, but it's going to be under those receipts for this year, scanned in and highlighted. And my husband tells me, what? But you have to be that organized because we need every deduction we can take if you do short-term rental or you run a business, because if I pay $2 at the courthouse for something, I want my 25% of my taxes not to be charged. So keeping very organized receipts is very important. Reviews, you have to communicate, and just being a realtor, you have to respond very quickly. I accept it. You have to review their reviews before you accept it. You got to communicate. Thank you for letting us stay. If you're not a good communicator, you're probably not in this room. So I'm probably talking the wrong group. But you got to be a great communicator if you're going to do short-term rental. And so let your clients know that if they ask you about it too. Just be honest with yourself.
Okay, Chelsea, if you could give the audience one thing to take away today to help them learn from your experience, what would that be?
I'm going to take what's going to feel like a big right turn. It was never about real estate for me. And I feel like all of us, if we got really honest, it's probably not about real estate. We might like real estate, but what's the real thing, right? Where are we actually trying to go? If you look 10 years into the future, even 20 years, who are you wanting to become? What does that person look like? And what's the growth pattern to become that person? I feel like if you really stop and start thinking about, okay, I can see the trajectory, the ideal of where I want to go, who I want to be, whether that's with your family or your life or whatever it is. And then you stop to think, so what are the limiting beliefs keeping me from getting there today? What is it actually that I've created that I hold in my subconscious that's controlling 80% of my decisions, that's keeping me from getting there? And getting really honest about reframing those things and rethinking those situations of how can you become that version of yourself that you want to be, and realizing that real estate can provide that path, whether it's you want to get better at a specific thing or you're wanting to grow or expand your own strengths or whatever it is, just making sure that you're slowing down and not getting so stuck in the day-to-day firefighting that we all do, and saying, actually, how does this serve my life and who I want to become? And for me, systems and technology just help those things, right? It supports the vision, but it supports the growth that I want to have internally. So if you ever want to have a deep conversation, I'm not a chit chatter. I'm not the person who probably calls and asks about your kid, if I'm honest. Doesn't mean I don't care, but I'm just running too fast. But I love to sit down and have a real conversation with people. I love to talk about what are you learning about yourself? What are you uncovering? Anyway, that's my pitch. But that's my right turn. Use technology and systems to help you get there, but who are you actually trying to become? And do you have a vision of who that person is? And what are the skills and strengths you have to change and grow in to become that?
Okay, I think we're back. All right, panel 3. Today we have Alita Ely. She is at John Ray. She started in 2012, and her production for the last quarter of last year through the third quarter of this year is $6.9 million. Are we doing claps? I can't remember. All right, the next one. I am noted for next time we're going to have some walkout music. I think that'd be great. All right, Kim Brazier is our second panelist. She started in June of 2012. She actually started a little bit before that. She's been 2 rounds in real estate, and she can go into that in her intro if she wants to. And she's at $14.7 million. She owns the Brazier Group out of Ruston. And then we've got Shane Wooten. He is started in 2007. He has the Shane Wooten team at Keller Williams, $16.1 million. And then Anna Romero, she has Cypress Realty in Rayville, and she is at $8.2 million and started in November of 2017. All right, so we will jump right in. We'll start with, we'll get Alita's slide up. All right, Introduce yourself.
So I'm Alita Ely. Hopefully most of you have met me. I feel like we all know each other. I grew up in real estate. My father was a real estate appraiser. Many people knew him. He was 6'4", and his name was Peanut, and that's what everybody called him. And I'm also married to an appraiser, so most of you have talked to my husband, Aaron, at some point, and we have 6 children, so we're very busy. Let's see, what else do you need? Oh, I went to college in Mississippi at Belhaven College. Fun fact, I got a degree in both biology, chemistry, and piano performance because I'm a super weirdo. And came home, thought I was going to medical school, changed directions, and headed towards my appraisal license at that point. So I actually was working in my dad's appraisal office at 12 years old, and was measuring houses with him way before that. And if you knew me when I was an appraiser and I started having babies, I had babies strapped to me and was measuring houses. So it is definitely a family business for us. Let's see. Superpower, my friend gave me this when she said, "You're a juggler." That is true. So I do a lot at a volleyball court and negotiating contracts at the same time, or doing whatever, and then also being able to look at a transaction and say, okay, we need to stage this, we need to do this, we need to do this. So really helping my clients see all the different aspects of getting a property ready for the market. Let's see, my big why, service. I love real estate, obviously, and it is a great vehicle, but the biggest thing is that I love people, and I want to help them do whatever they need to do or want to do. So, I'm an artist and a florist and an event planner.
And she decorated the front of our office.
And I do
too,
a lot of
here.
things. Interior design. I mean, all the things. So,
all the things.
Yeah,
very good. Okay, Kim?
I'll have to look and see what I put. Because I wrote something down here and it's totally different from
You
what
can do
I
both.
said.
You can, yeah. You've got 2 minutes, so introduce yourself and however you want it to go.
I am Kim Brazier. How long have I been in the business? About 19-ish years. As Malia said, I've been in the business twice. Came in, got out, had to retake everything, came back in. So 2 times around, the second time around. Fun fact, I put my age difference between my first child and my last child. I've been married to my husband for 42 years. We have 5 children, 6 grandchildren. My oldest child is 41 and my youngest child is 21. So we have a big span of a big brew. And then, you do too. And then we have 6 grandchildren. I don't know if I said that. Another fun fact, my husband and I have moved 17 times, so I really love real estate. Big why is joy. I also put purpose down for myself here today as I went back through, but the joy probably comes for how much I enjoy what I do each day. Let's see. Superpower, accepting. And I think I'm accepting to all. I hope I am. That's what I want to be. And so I guess when I told Malia that, I had a thought about it, but as I was going back into my notes, I put knowing and understanding my community. And that's something I really work hard to do, is to know and understand what's going on in the area I work in.
Okay, very good. Shane?
Well, hello, I'm Shane Wooten. I am been in real estate for 19 years. I was sitting here thinking back some of the things people were saying. I've been in commission-based business since I was 18. So I've been in really doing commissions since I was for 27 years. No college. I went to Ouachita, graduated in 98, was going to go to college. Woke up the morning, I was supposed to take the ACT because you just had to have an ACT to get into ULM. I slept in, went to work, and I said, well, I guess I'll be a salesman for the rest of my life. And so that's kind of what brought me here. But fun fact, I lived a little bit of crazier life whenever I was single. My wife kind of slowed me down a little bit on that, but I have been 176 miles an hour on a motorcycle. My goal was 200, so I didn't hit it. But sold that after we started having kids and everything. So one word, why you do what you do, striving. I try to strive to have a better life financially for my kids. My mom was a waitress. My dad worked on cars, and we didn't have a whole lot. So I wanted to be able to provide more for my family. And so, but I also wanted to be able to provide more time. And so where I was working at for a while, I was 9 to 6, Monday through Friday, and 10 to 4 on Saturdays. I was always looking out a window. And one day, Mike Riley pulled up on a motorcycle, and I asked him what he did for a living. And he said, oh, I sell real estate. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's selling real estate, and he's riding around on a motorcycle in the middle of the daytime, you know? So a lot of it was to be able to not be pinned somewhere, to be able to have some freedom, to be able to pencil in time for my kids. So, and then let's see what else I had. Real estate superpower. I put hustle, you know, for me, just trying to hustle, make things happen, put deals together, find deals for people, find deals for myself. I've just, you know, a lot of times if you catch me during the daytime and I'm in the middle of doing everything, I have tunnel vision. A lot of people say that I come off as abrasive, but when I get into this tunnel vision, I want to get the job done and make sure that, you know, get it done in a timely manner. So right on time. Bam.
Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna Earl Romero. I primarily work over in Richland Parish, east of Monroe to the Mississippi line. I started my brokerage, Cypress State Realty, about 6 years ago when my child was a baby. Well, actually, it's 8 years. I'm getting much more older as we speak. Time is just moving quickly. I'm married to my husband, and we live in Rayville, but I grew up in Mangum. I've been in real estate total for 20 years, but I started off as a receptionist. I met my former broker while I was waiting tables after I had dropped out of college. So that just kind of fell into my lap, and I just kept rolling with it, kept sticking with it. So my why as to why I work in real estate is I really enjoy the autonomy of it all. The ability to choose my own path and create the life that I want to have with my child and husband. I think that my real estate superpower is authenticity. I think that's what I said. Okay. And just the ability to form relationships without having to try too hard. 35 seconds. Okay. I really liked what Rachel said about being yourself. I feel like people can tell one way or another. If you're trying too hard or if you're trying to sell them something, they can really feel that. And so I think that that's a power we all have, is just to be ourselves and create those relationships.
And your fun fact?
Oh, my fun fact. I can name any song pre-2000s within just a few seconds of hearing it. So.
I love that.
It's a good party trick.
That's a great party trick.
I would love that.
Okay, Alita, your first question. Alita is flip the slide to Alita. Oh, never mind. I thought we were already, never mind. I'm losing my mind. All right, ignore that. All right, number one for you, Alita, is how do you prioritize your family of 8 and personal growth while staying accountable to your lead generation and running a high-producing business?
Ooh, well, so when they sent me this question, I kind of laughed about it because, I mean, does anybody really have life-work balance when they have 6 children? No, they don't. So I would say it's really tough to do. But the biggest thing I would say is everything goes on a calendar. So we have a calendar for the year that has every single thing that's coming up for the year. I start in September making calendars and work myself into a monthly calendar that gets posted for the family. And we have digital calendars that we all follow, and that is helpful. I'm not as much into digital stuff. I like to write. I'm a tactile learner, and so I like to see it and hold it. It sticks in my brain better. So we have yearly, monthly, daily, hourly, and we just try to stick to the calendar. That's the biggest thing. I would say lead generation is something that I'm not naturally good at making a consistent effort at. And part of that is because the authenticity aspect of it, it feels forced to me when I'm having to sit down and make calls for something. So one of the things that I've been able to do, and I think this is part of it, is because I have so many children and I'm in so many different community groups and different things that I'm part of. It's just an organic growth of lead generation, really, is probably one of the reasons why I've been able to do what I've been able to do in real estate. I do have a database and I work through it and I'm consistently staying with my past clients, but that is definitely hard for me to do, I would say, because I got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Kim, how do you avoid burnout and market downturns and challenging transactions?
Okay, so that was kind of hard for me because I don't know that I feel burned out. I probably should be burned out, but I don't. I really do love what I do. I love going to work, and that's maybe why I don't feel like I get burned out. But when there are market downturns and things are slow, I'm always exploring new opportunities. In real estate, I want to be ready and prepared for what is coming. I don't often find myself bored or slow. I actually have a high energy. I'm more likely telling myself to shut it off instead of turning it on. I love the send later now that I have on my text because I can be texting people at midnight if I need to, but it goes out to them at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. In the last 7 weeks, I've flipped 2 homes. Was hoping to finish one by tomorrow, but it will be next week. But I just enjoy doing and being busy. And so I don't really run into burnout in the downturns because I find something else to do. Challenging transactions, with that, I focus on what I can control. There's so much I can't control, so I have to stay focused on what is in my capability of controlling. And then I really lean into my team, the people that are around me, and people that I trust and respect in our industry.
Very good. All right, Shane, what systems, daily habits, routines, boundaries, and non-negotiables have you have contributed most to your success?
Well, I treat each day, I clock in. I kind of have a same routine. I drop my daughter off at school and I head to the office and I mentally clock in. I start making my calls, call people back, follow up. And I go in and I think I have basically the same routine. I'll check bank accounts. I'll check Airbnbs, what's going on there. I'll check our pendings, look at our status on if we got any contracts accepted, and just really clock in and be present. I always try to. I'm not one to go stand around a coffee pot very long and chat and have conversations. I might have one of those with you for 30 seconds, but I want to go be present and be productive. I don't want to just be busy. I want to be productive daily. And I'll check pendings and also Facebook for birthdays. So that's one of my big things that I like to do is I like to check Facebook to see whose birthday it is. And I have one lady that I call every year on May 15th, and I've been calling her for the last 8 years. And I ended up getting about 5 referrals for calling her on May 15th because that was her and her husband's anniversary. And you can get on Facebook and write a message, but you get lost in 300. but being personable and calling these people and say, hey, I just want to wish you a happy birthday. I hope your day's great. For you to take a few seconds out of your day just to call these people means the world to them. And to her, I ended up selling her son a house. I sold her grandkids a house. And even after her husband had passed away, I still call her every year and wish him a happy anniversary. I missed it 1 year. I called her the day after because I was out of town, and she was like, I was looking for your call. And so those little conversations in the mornings, you just don't know what they're going to lead to, because people like, I had a friend call me, and the reason that I try to be proactive in this is he called me one day, and for him to take 30 seconds out of his day to wish me happy birthday, that was a huge deal for me. So there you go.
Hey,
That clock
Anna?
is very intimidating.
Speak faster at the end. Anna, what would you tell your younger self about what it really takes to build a career that lasts in this industry?
I would tell my younger self, to focus on what's important to you. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Just the only competition that you have is yourself. Know your boundaries, know what you will and will not accept from people. Become a master problem solver. That's pretty much all we do all day long, is just solve problems. There's always a solution. It may not be what you want it to be, but it'll work itself out. You just have to think through it. Also, I would tell myself not to overconsume media and podcasts and books and things about real estate. You can get lost in so much information. Everybody has a perspective on what you need to do in order to be a successful real estate agent. But look inside yourself, and that's where it is. You don't have to go searching for someone else's journey. Also, I already mentioned this, but I have a few more seconds left. Learn boundaries. That's something they should have told us in high school instead of as an adult. As you get older, you don't have to accept bad behavior from other people. You don't have to work with everyone. Not everybody's going to like you, and you're not going to be a good fit for everyone. So just learn what you will and will not accept. And good things will come your way.
Absolutely. All right. Alita, your second question is, if you had to start over today with everything you know now, what would you do differently to build both success and balance faster?
So I think that the main thing that I would try to tell myself is to focus on the people more than it's real easy to get caught up in the competition side of it. I'm a highly competitive person, and so I like to win all the things. And I think focusing more on just those relationships and people are the thing that make it go round, and the service side of it, not being as concerned about, getting the higher dollar listing or the number of listings. It's real easy to get caught up in the numbers and to really focus on people, that they're the most important part of it. And not just your clients too, but your kids are going to miss you if you don't show up for that game, or they are going to miss you if you don't go to that whatever at school. Just that's one of the best things about real estate and having a family, is that you can really do what you want to do with your time. You can figure out a way to fit it in somewhere else. And a lot of times it is at midnight, but you do it.
Okay. Kim, what measures have you put in place to block your time and manage your energy effectively and efficiently?
Everything goes on the calendar. It doesn't matter what it is. I have a pep rally today at 2:00. It's on the calendar. I had a meeting at the office this morning. It was on the calendar. I had to get coffee this morning. It was on the calendar. Everything goes on the calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist, because I don't know about it. I have to check my calendar every morning, and usually at the end of the day, I'm asking Siri what's on my calendar tomorrow to update me. That may sound crazy, but that's the only way I can keep it all together and balance family, work, and other opportunities I have going on in my life. I try to fit the small things in between. When Malia asked me about coming today, I told her I couldn't, because what I had this morning had been on my calendar since last November. And I try not to take things off that are important to me, but yet I want to include things that are important too. So there are things that are fluid that can move. We all know that in real estate. Somebody wants to see a house, they cancel, you can move things, but there are some things that are not movable for me, and that's going to be the pep rally today at 2, the baseball game tonight at 6. Those I will be at. My appointment will be around them. But the great thing is in real estate, I can start at 8 o'clock in the morning and I can work till dark. So I can work, play, and it's really a wonderful career. If you can manage your time. And I hope I do it efficiently. I hope I give everybody the time they need. There are times I have a business partner in the room, and sometimes, he may be thinking different. But, I want to be a good timekeeper, and I can't be if it's not on my calendar. So just living by my calendar.
Very good. All right, Shane, how do you leverage your CRM, your systems and automations to keep client interactions personal but not consuming in order to protect your time?
So I went about 17 years without having any kind of CRM. When we hired Jessica, she came in and I think she looked at me like I had two heads because how I was operating everything. So she really came in and kind of pulled the CRM together so we can keep up with past clients. But I got 17 years of past clients that, there's a very good chance I may never talk to again. But we do that. But a lot of mine is through people to be able to manage my time, because you only have so much time in the day. When I first started out, I was working 70 hours a week doing every job. And so if any of y'all have ever did a deal with us, you've probably talked to Ashley, and Ashley's a big part of managing my time to be able to do so I can do two things at once. So whenever it comes 5 or 6 o'clock and I'm ready to clock out, I'm not having to take work home with me. And, you do from time to time have to answer the phone calls, respond to inspections, things of that nature, but you're not just bogged down until 10 o'clock at night. So really leverage through people, and having talented people help you is really a big part of my daily basis, and be able to have time. So.
Okay. Anna, real estate changes fast and can be very volatile. Tech, markets, expectations. What has helped you most in adapting and staying relevant?
So adapting and staying relevant in real estate is much like whiplash. I mean, it is just a constant. There's new people, there's new systems, new markets. We're experiencing that right now. But for years, I tried to white knuckle it, and it's easy to get almost addicted to work. You'll get in the flow, and it's easy to do that. I tried so hard to separate my family time from my work time. And like Kim said, it's impossible. I mean, if you're a mother and a real estate agent, like, it is very difficult to just have, separated times for each one. But I'm glad that we have the ability to work and play and make the pep rallies and ball games. And that's something that is so important to me. Your kids will know if you're not there. So instead of white knuckling, just swimming with the current instead of against it. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just kind of roll with the flow. You have to learn how to pivot in this business. And that is something that's so important. You can't be too rigid. I like what Micah said about stacking good days. I thought that was such a good, because I have lots of bad days. I struggle with, some chronic illness and stuff. So some days I'm just doing the minimum. And then other days, I'll have 5 great days in a row and get all kinds of stuff done. So you just have to roll with what you got.
Okay. Alita, what is one thing we should have asked you today?
I don't know. No, I do. I think probably one of the things I would encourage everybody to do is thinking about the best ways to build relationships with people. And one of the ways that I have found to do that is that it is community involvement, to be honest. It is really being out to be in. That's kind of the way that it works. But one of the things I've found through a lot of community involvement, you are getting the benefit of serving our community, which we need, but also working alongside people changes your relationship with them, and they grow to trust you in a way that is completely unique to that particular form of effort together. And so that is one of the best ways I found to expand my opportunities for relationships. So like, even if it's in your kid's sports organization, if you're like, I'm the camera person, it's so stupid, but all of those parents know that they can trust me to get video of their kid in the game, and it means a lot to them. That's very special to them. So that has given me the opportunity. I mean, you would not imagine the types of conversations I've had at a volleyball court about real estate, because they see that they can trust me, and there's camaraderie, but it's also just there's service to them in those little things, and that service aspect of who I am and my personality really shines forth, and that does give a lot of business opportunity. So.
Kim, what is the one thing we should have asked you today specifically?
I put why real estate is a career. And I've been in real estate twice. Obviously, I like it, but it wasn't for the money. It wasn't to sell houses. That's not why I came in. I looked at it. Actually, I had, like many people, a mentor, someone in my life who was a real estate agent and was encouraging me to get my real estate license. And I thought, I would like to help better my family, be able to do things that financially we can't do right now, but also having my children as a priority and my husband as a priority was important to me. And that was something I wasn't willing to compromise on. Talking about the calendar every day, I had an appointment between 2:30 and 3 that might last 30 minutes. It might last an hour, but that was the time I picked up my children. That was the most important time of my day with them, was hearing their highs and their lows from their day and spending that time with them. I might go back out on an appointment at 4 o'clock when my husband got home from work, but that was our time together. Now, it wasn't the only time I had with my children. As I said earlier, I always was at every event at school, but doing real estate helped me live that life and helps me live that life. I get to go to the grandchildren things. I still have 2 daughters in school. So real estate has been a blessing in ways that I never imagined it. Not only financially a blessing, but in relationships and just the things that God has taught me about myself. This is very difficult for me. I'm not a stud in front. And so this is growth. And so I'm always trying to grow and be better. And I would probably say this is one of my weakest gifts right now. This is not a gift. And, but I would say that, whatever you're doing in real estate, continue and just work harder to look for what is in it for you.
Okay, Shane, what's the one thing we should have asked you today specifically?
I had something earlier and I changed it, listened to everybody's, heard a lot of great conversations, but one of the things was that I thought of is, how are you investing in yourself in the future? And I'm centering everything around real estate. We help people daily and give people advice daily. We've got the inside scoop on things. But a lot of times we don't take that action and we don't buy that rental property or do that flip. We give this advice, and I found myself doing that and wasn't taking my own advice. And one day I'm a partner with a guy, and he gave us a quote and basically told us that, we need to be building wealth through real estate and use our career to pay our daily bills. And that was a big thing to me, because we were flipping and we were pulling the money out. And this guy, he's very successful, and I watched successful people, and we started using those habits and just putting the money back into the real estate and not trying to pull that out and just living off of what we made. And I look up and we've got a bunch of properties that are really close to being paid for. And that was just great advice. But I think the biggest thing is just, how are you going to invest in yourself for the future? We can sell real estate till we're old and gone, but do you really want to sell real estate? Do you really want to have to sell real estate that long? Or do you want to have properties that provides you this income monthly to your mailbox that's going to help you not have to work as hard as you have had? So,
okay. Anna, what's the one thing we should have asked you specifically?
So the one thing that I think should have been asked of me is how I run a brokerage and I'm still an agent in production. I don't know what I was thinking because it's worked out, okay? But it is two very different jobs. I thought I was just going to be selling houses I originally opened a brokerage to hide behind the logo because I don't like to put myself out there. I didn't want to seem too salesy, but it's worked out, and just be aware that it is two different jobs and two different skill sets, and you need a support staff and a way, like an exit plan, a way to kind of transition out of that. And so hopefully one day I will get there. And the other thing I would have liked to have been asked is going along with the support staff, like you can only do so much in a day. Like there was one year that I sold like 70 units and I will never be able to top that. Like that is just ridiculous. And I was working too much. I was missing bedtime with my kid. I mean, it was just, I was out of control, but I didn't know how to stop it. So just knowing what your limits are and what a comfortable place for you to be in looks like. Just try to find that type of balance and don't burn out. Like, don't really burn out. Like, it's a physical thing that happens to you. It's not just a buzzword. It'll make you sick. So, and it takes a lot longer to get out of burnout than it does to get in it. So, take care of yourself, guys.
Okay. Now we'll all have the last question, which will be the same for everybody. But if you could give the audience one thing to take away today to help them learn from your experience, what would that be?
Having been in real estate as long as I have been in real estate, one of the common pitfalls that I think that most agents, well, I won't say most, a lot of agents will fall into is allowing your ego to become a part of the process and you're allowing your own passion. And a lot of times it's legitimate, like I passionately want to protect my client in the situation, right? But a lot of times we don't manage our own emotions well, and so we're not managing our clients' emotions well. I have had the lovely time of just going through this quite a few times in the last couple of weeks of just the agent is really getting in the middle of it. And I just want to say, pick yourself up out of that. And it is not about you. It really is not about you. And it is important, we're all going to have those feelings. So find that person that's your sounding board that you can go to and just lay it all out and vent and get it out so that you can go back to your client and really fence their emotions and help them get to the table and allow them to see a bird's eye view of solutions. Because, we are firemen. That's the truth, is that we're putting out fires and counseling and doing all these. We're wearing a lot of hats when we go through a transaction, but that's a thing I would encourage agents. Really be aware of it and careful about it.
Okay. Kim?
This may be a little repetitive of other things that have been said today, but for me, it would be seek your purpose. Many times we compare ourselves to other people or other things, and we can look really good or we can look really bad depending on who our comparison is. I encourage you to find the best you and what you are made to be. Throughout my life, my purpose has been different in different spaces and different stages of life, whether it's just wife or mother, now realtor, now business owner. It's looked different. And there were times that I struggled and I really, cried out to God, just like, what now? Show me what it is. What is my purpose? Where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? And we all have different gifts and talents. And those gifts and talents, I feel like, are what make us who we are. And they also give us our purpose. So when there are many things that I do lack and things that I don't do well. And so creating a circle of people around me has really helped. Those people bring what I don't have to the game. They help me. They make me a better me. Their gifts are different, and I appreciate their gifts, and I'm glad to have them in my life. I can only compare myself to what I did last and what I will do with it and how I will grow from it. And that's the only way I can make a better version of myself. And me making a better version of myself is me continuing to seek my purpose. And that's totally up to me. It's not up to what I'm looking at someone else is doing. It's up to what Kim did, what she did last, and what she'll do tomorrow.
Shane?
For me, it's whose life can you help change? I think it was Anna talk about being a waitress, but what waitress out there, what salesperson that you meet daily, who would be good in real estate and whose life can you help change? For me, I was working in retail sales, and the guy approached me and saw a few awards that I'd got, and he said, hey, you ever thought about getting into real estate? Well, I'd already thought about it because Mike Riley had came by on his motorcycle, and I had kind of the negative part of it where you had to wait 30 days at a time for your paycheck. But Carol explained to me on the pipeline and what I'm closing this month, I worked on last month, and what I'm closing next month, I worked on this month, and kind of explained it to me and really brought it down to me. And I remember him saying, mine was about the money at the time. I was trying to make as much as I possibly could. I remember him telling me, how much do you make here? And I had sold half of what we had sold the previous year. And I said, well, I do fairly well here. This was in 2004. I said, I'd made 52,000. He said, wow, that's good numbers. He said, I've made that in one sale before. And I think I started real estate class that night, And so for me, the big thing is whose life can we change? Who do you meet on a daily basis that waits on you at a restaurant or that you have a really good experience with? Because I truly believe one of the top agents in the next 10 years is out there working somewhere and aren't having those conversations. So it changed my life, somebody having a conversation with me, and probably a lot of y'all, somebody having a conversation. But just remember, when you meet people that you think would be good in this business, try to help change their life. Talk to them about real estate. Hey, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? I think it'd be good for you. So that's my 2 cents.
Anna?
So my key takeaways that I'd like for you guys to know is listen way more than you talk. Let people get a word in. People don't want to hear you talk constantly. They don't want to hear everything about you and all the awards you've gotten. Just get to know them on a personal level, and they'll know that you're a real estate agent. You don't have to remind them every day about that. Another thing that I want to say is form relationships with your competition. My relationships with a lot of these realtors in this room are wonderful, and some of my favorite ones in my life. And I've never looked, like Mikhail said earlier, I've never really looked at anybody as competition. Like, we all have the same goal at the end of the day. And I think our clients are better served because of that. You're all working to get to the same place. And I like to co-op with other brokerages. I personally don't like dual agencies, so please come sell any of my listings. But I treasure a lot of the relationships in this room, and I'm just thankful to have a seat at the table. And I also want to thank Malia for hosting this event. This has been fun.
Well, thank you. I have a couple of thank yous also. One for Barrow, which he's gone, but also for the panelists for being so vulnerable and graciously sharing your time with us this morning. I think it went fantastic, and I appreciate all of y'all taking the time out of your day to do that. Also, for you guys for coming, for investing in your businesses, for investing time in your personal growth. I think it is fantastic. It takes a lot of effort to put something on your calendar and show up. Even with all of the texts and all of the emails, if you look at the table, there are probably still that committed that didn't get to come because life happens. So it is exciting to see what you all are doing for yourselves in this moments today. And then for NER, for allowing us to use the office. And so I really appreciate that. I think it's a great opportunity to get involved and to give back to one another. I think it's important that we collaborate and that we elevate our industry in any way that we're able to. So the NER actually allowed me to teach a class this past year, the Live with Intention retention class, and they paid me to do that. And so I was like, how can I give a thank you for them? And so I just felt like on my heart, having all of these top producers in one room is not something that happens very often. And so I just thought it was a wonderful opportunity to celebrate you all and to congratulate you all and just to love on and pour into. So I'm thankful that y'all are all here today. And then special thank you to my team at KW for putting this on. They were very helpful in creating the slides and doing all the things behind the scenes to make it happen. So Megan, thank you. Jessica, thank you. My little VA in the Philippines, he'll hear this afternoon. So anyway, all of the things, that system thing really checks out. All right, so go to the next one, Megan. So if you, again, want information on this business planning clinic, it'll be here at the board office, December 10th, 9 to 12. Shoot me a text. This is from a guy named Anthony Neeson. He's coming up from Alexandria to teach this class, and it will be with models and systems. And like I said, there is one piece of homework, where you'll need to know your average sales price, your average commission, and it will kind of get in the weeds of your business, but it's not for anybody to look at your stuff or to grade your paper. It's just for you personally to come and work on your business, a dedicated day and time to pour into your business for next year. And then the next one, if you found any piece of value in today's meeting, please Cash App. We are working on pulling together funds to buy food for next week. So if you will please just take a minute to do that, that would be very helpful. And then our winner, okay, so we need to take a little vote real quick. Are we gonna go closest or are we gonna go closest without going over? So if you want closest, raise your hand. Oh, okay. Closest without going over. Okay. And the winner is? It changes things, okay? And the winner is? India, where are you? There you are. Congratulations. The number is So basically what she's saying is 28% of the volume for the past 4 quarters are represented in this room today, of all of them. So I think that's really cool. And so congratulations and thank you all so much for coming. There's definitely power in numbers, and I love the relationship game. So if y'all need anything, or if y'all want to see more things like this happen here at the board, let me know. I would love to help host different things and get it on books. All right. You're dismissed unless y'all have other questions for one another. Mix and mingle.